So, in 2002, my partner of 15 years and I and the kids, we lived at these apartments. And I'm making this video because now I have more memory. And it was this apartment at the 901 Wilson Creek Traymore apartment. It was apartment 413. These are the doors that I walked in many, many times during the year of 2002. Find it funny now, this is 2019, 7 years later, or 17 years. There's a bunch of copper in here. Copper. US. These to me are not coincidences. And I'm not saying I'm dark, but there's Darth Vader. Because I do recognize there is a spirit of darkness. But this is the townhouse that I lived at. And on the day of October 26th, 2002, my friend and her two girls had just moved out of this apartment, which was next door to ours. And in 2002, there wasn't a cell phone, or there were cell phones like Blackberries and Razors, but we didn't have the iPhone or the smartphone. Texting was very hard. Many people, if you had a cell phone, were considered they had more money because cell phones were just super expensive in those times. So we had landline phone. In fact, I think my partner might have had, because I had gotten her one, given her the opportunity of having things that I couldn't, so I helped her establish hers. And I didn't have a cell phone, she did. But I had a landline phone, and so these people were just moving out, like within that week, so they didn't have, and her oldest daughter worked at the skating rink behind these apartments here, so of course they were in the area. And I get a knock on this door right here, and I had just let our two kids go out to play, and I get a knock on the door saying there was a kid hit, and I was praying to God it wasn't the two girls I was raising at the time. So she needed to use a cell phone. So, and it was this neighbor, they had just moved out, they only knew us here, so they ran from the street here. They ran over here because the accident, the kid had been hit over here. So they ran over here using our landline phone in 2002. So I say, yes, of course, run in and get my phone. I run out to see whose kid it is because she just said kid. I didn't know if a girl or boy, and I had two girls that I was raising with my partner at the time. So I run over here. So I ran. To this location. 17 years later, there's now a cross here. It's been 17 years. There's now a cross here. And it was directly right here that faced more this way. In this street is where I saw, after I had ran, as you can see, this car that just drove by. The roads were all the same. It was 2 lanes here, 2 lanes across. And a little boy was on this side. He was running on this side here. And he chased a friend across the street, heading towards this way. And his friend made it across, but he never did. A huge SUV vehicle was coming this way, never saw him, and struck him here. Now this incident stuck in my life, stuck in my mind, many, 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 many years. The man who hit him never got out of the vehicle. Never got out. So actually, see how fast this car is coming? He never saw the boy. And it was a big SUV Suburban. The man who hit him never got out, and I was the one to be at scene. The first person, police hadn't even been called at this time, or they were being called by my friend who ran. She was directly behind him, the person who hit him, when it happened. So, of course, she was the one that runs over to my apartment asking to use the phone. And I'm the very first person that is standing over a little boy. I couldn't tell if it was a boy or girl at the time, other than I could just see the shoes and jeans, so I assumed it was a boy because I couldn't tell who it was, honestly, because his body had been so crushed, and I saw colors that I never could describe. But I was there, I stood over him, and I was in shock, because why, God, am I seeing this? Why, God? What is this? What happened? Who did this? And I look around, and I'm the only one there, and like I said, the person who did it wouldn't even get out of the car. That's how tragic it was. And then, I don't even know how many minutes later, I was in shock, and I hear behind me, my baby, and I could feel the presence of a woman running. Before I even turned around, I recognized that voice. That voice was one of our good friends, actually. We had, it was actually my partner's good friend that she went to high school with. And to hear that voice just added more terror, more seed into my head, it just planted a huge scare into me. And because when I would turn around, I would now see the woman of the son that lost her child. I would now see her running to see her son lay slain amongst this ground here. And then I realized who this boy was. So now I go from in shock to becoming a strength that I would never know, a supernatural strength. Because I then had to collect myself in those times and turn to her. And we weren't the best of friends for some issues, but that didn't matter at this time. No matter what our differences were, at this time, it didn't matter. It was like those things didn't even matter at all. In time of need, differences, they don't matter. In time of need, money doesn't matter. In time of need, the only thing that matters is love. The only thing is love. As I stayed, she was saying, pick my baby up, my baby, pick him up, make him breathe. And the more she would say that, I would lean down trying to pick him up, and then I would come to, he's dead, in my mind. And I would turn to her and say, I'm sorry. She was in shock, seeing it just as much as I was in shock when I first saw. And she would just say, my baby, pick him up, make him breathe. And of course I would go again, not listening to the first time when she said it. This went on round and round 5-6 times before I finally just took a hold of her and said, he's dead, he's gone. And I'm talking the loudest cry I ever heard. I don't even know what kind of beating I took, because she was pounding me in my chest, hurt as she was, that I never felt it. But I just embraced her, being here for her, being her strength. I was in this situation. I was given this. And I never understood why, because just 2 months prior, I had lost my grandmother on my birthday. So I was already in a state of depression. So other than I know what it's like to lose somebody you love, ultimately love and love and love, I know what it's like to lose something you love the most and not understand why, and just to keep going. So I found it within me during all this time. She just recently given birth to a son. His name was, I think, Isaiah is what she named him. And I'm pretty sure it was Isaiah. Well, I said, you had to keep going because Isaiah needs you. He needs you. And anyway, the chaplain got there, And I didn't see anybody. The fire trucks, the police, all of them are around. I could see their lights, but it's like they didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was this woman that just lost her son. Nothing else mattered. Her son was dead. He was gone. But the only thing that mattered, no matter what differences I had with this woman, was her son and the love that she just lost. And that I was supposed to be strong for her. In a time of need, I could have easily walked away, and most people feel righteously to do that. But I heard God tell me stay and do something that for most people would be so hard, to provide for this woman who lost everything in this moment, everything in her eyes. I record this video because it's a testimony in my life that later gave the seed to write my second book, Online Now. And the way God worked with me, he sent my autobiography out first in 2014. And he kept telling me I needed to write Online Now, and he kept telling me it's going to be a fiction, takes place in California. This is the name of the book. And I kept ignoring it. And then finally one day fear came over me, and I heard if you didn't write this, you would die. So finally I just started writing it. And some of the names that I look back and I think, wow, God, you're so amazing. Because of this, my grandmother, she passed she passed on my birthday, August 10th, 1977. And so on that day, I saw, and I knew it. 2 weeks before, God had given me a revelation that she was going to pass on my birthday. So I knew it. And then 2 months later, I'm now faced with this as another thing. So it sent me for 8 years into a huge depression. And for many years, 8 years, I didn't understand. I became all kinds of wicked. Whatever wicked was, I was there. But then one day, we go to Las Vegas, and I have a revelation of Lady Gaga. And I ran into this impersonator of Lady Gaga 5-6 times, and I write about it in Connected by Angels. But this was at the MGM Grand, and we were at a rehab pool party. And we had to pay like $100 back in 2010. It was like 8 years after all of this happened. We had to pay $100 at this pool party to have a good time. And in those times, there was a long line out the door waiting. I don't know what's going on now there. But I find it funny, it was 2010. I had a revelation of Lady Gaga 5-6 times. And here we are, 2009, and she's now at the MGM Grand as her residency 9 years later at the MGM Grand, the same place I had the revelation of her. And I wrote Connected by Angels because God showed me so many things about what's to come that he put on the cover of my book. He told me what to write. And I had no idea of any of these things, but I look back now and I see it all. And he's given me the revelation of so much of what's to come now, next. And there will be good and there will be bad, and he will come. And he will vindicate us from the bad. And I have no fear because of what I've went through. I've seen the depths of hell. I have seen it. And for what I lack right now, I know the glory is coming. There's no way I could ever turn back because I see Jesus as he's standing right in front of me just by the signs that he's given me. There's no way that I could be saying all this and not be true, because every one of this is true, and these are my truths. Therefore, God allowed grace to happen in my life all my life for this very moment. And it's not even about me. It's for all of you. I hope you hear this message. I'm sharing this because August 10th, today is July 13th. God has led me to see where all of my houses were, because they all represent something. Everywhere I've lived in life on my own, whether it be where my parents raised me in Allen, Texas, whether it be in Gainesville, Texas, where I started, Whether it be in Oklahoma where I was born off of I-35 and the kicker being Highway 77, God has showed me signs, and it's all my truth. So I will post this video along with the pictures of my homes that God showed me besides the 901 Star Street. It was 901 Wilson Creek as of this place where this happened. But 901 Star Street is where it all began. When I was 2, my parents moved from Oklahoma to Texas. We lived in an apartment for a few years, and after that, we moved into our first actual house. Don't know exactly the year, but it was 901 West Star Street. And across from it said 810. That's the day I was born and the month. I was at 901 and across from me was 810. And I always looked at that and I knew at some point I would become a star. And because of those thoughts, I thought I was going to be like Elvis because I was born 6 days before he died. But God had a different plan. It was never about me being famous. This is all for Him. This is why I love Jesus so much. This is why I am the revelation of what's to come. This is all to glorify Jesus. I tried so many times to become a star, but actually I was always encouraging others because I knew it was others. I was always encouraging my sister, which was 5 days before Lady Gaga. She was born March 23rd, 1986. My own sister, and Lady Gaga becomes the famous one. And I always encouraged my sister because she could sing and she was left-handed and she hazel eyes and she was like 5'2" and she had an awesome voice. And I would always encourage her at age 14 to get on the stage at karaoke and sing. And she remembers this. But it was Lady Gaga that took the stage. And there was others that I always encouraged to become famous. Because inside I knew that I would be famous, but I was always scared. But inside I was always preparing others the way. But really, ultimately, they never made it, the ones I helped. I could see it, but there was something in them that would not go. It wasn't never about them. Even though I love my family and my friends and my sisters and brothers, this is always about, and has and will always be about Jesus, the one I always have seen from a very young age. At age 7, I saw Him in a way that those who have seen that goldness, that hedge of protection, they know. And it was from a dog that bit me. So I would say, like, if you know the scriptures about the watchtower and the dogs, this is very much what happened to me. That's a huge testimony there. And I'll leave it at this to cut it at 17, 18.